I knew something was off the moment she said we do not need a prenup. That was months ago, early on in our engagement. At the time, I let it slide because I thought she loves me. She would not do anything to hurt me. But that little comment stuck with me. Raquel and I met at a tech conference 2 years ago. I was there to network for my company, and she was there with a friend, casually soaking up the scene. She had this confidence that made her stand out. When we started talking, it was easy. No pretenses, just laughs and real conversation. By the end of that night, I was hooked. We moved fast. Within a year, we were engaged. It felt right, at least that is what I told myself. She seemed supportive of my work, my long hours, and the stress I carried from running a business. She even traveled with me to a few conferences and client meetings. I thought we were building something solid. Things started to shift when I brought up the prenup. I had built my company from scratch. 10 years of sleepless nights, sacrificing vacations, and putting every dime back into the business. It was not just about the money. It was about protecting what I had worked so hard for. When I explained this to Raquel, she seemed fine with it. She said, "Of course, I understand," and I believed her. We drafted the agreement together. It was fair and straightforward. She would keep what she earned, and I would keep the business and investments I brought into the marriage. If things went south, we would divide what we built together during the marriage. Simple, right? She even thanked me for being so transparent. Looking back now, I should have paid more attention to the small things, little moments when she made comments like, "You have all this money, why not just share it all?" Or how she started asking about the value of my company more often than usual. But at the time, I thought it was just curiosity or playful teasing. We got into the rhythm of wedding planning. Menus, guest lists, even tastings for the menu. She was always excited, always involved, but there were these moments when she seemed distracted, like her mind was somewhere else. I chalked it up to stress. Planning a wedding is a lot, right? I was not about to micromanage her emotions. What I did not know was that while I was finalizing contracts with vendors and negotiating deals for my business, Raquel had started working on her own plans. Plans that had nothing to do with us building a life together. It all started with an envelope on my desk. I remember the moment perfectly. I had just come home from a long day of meetings, tossed my keys on the counter, and saw the stack of papers sitting there. At first, I thought it was just the final version of the prenup, ready for signatures. I almost left it for later, but something about it caught my eye. I opened the envelope and started reading. At first, everything looked normal, like what Raquel and I had agreed upon. But as I flipped through the pages, I saw sections I did not recognize. My heart started racing. These were not just edits, they were completely new clauses. One clause stated that if we divorced, she would get half of my company. Half! Another gave her a lifetime claim to my investments, even if the marriage lasted just a few years. My pension was mentioned too. It was as if the agreement had been gutted and rewritten to benefit her in ways we had never discussed. I felt like the room was spinning. I sat down, flipping back and forth between pages, trying to make sense of what I was looking at. Did I miss something? Was there some mistake? I checked the date and realized these changes had been made recently, behind my back. I remember grabbing my phone and scrolling through my messages with Raquel, looking for any hint that she had told me about this. Nothing. She had not mentioned a single word. That is when it hit me. She was not planning to tell me. I could not believe it. This was not the woman I thought I knew. The one who had told me she respected everything I had worked for. I thought about all those conversations we had, the nights we stayed up talking about our future, how she had looked me in the eyes and promised we were on the same page. That night, I could barely sleep. I kept thinking about how to confront her, what I would say and how she would respond. Would she admit to it, deny it, or try to twist it around? My mind was racing with questions, none of which had answers. By morning, I had made up my mind. I called her and told her to come over after work. I did not want to do this over the phone. I wanted to see her face when I laid the papers in front of her. When she arrived, I could tell she knew something was up. There was this tension in the air, like she was bracing herself. I held up the papers and asked her, "Do you want to explain this to me?" The way her face shifted, half annoyed, half defensive, told me everything I needed to know. What came next was the beginning of the end. The moment I confronted her, I could see it in her eyes. She was not even sorry. She rolled her eyes, crossed her arms, and said, "What are you talking about?" Like I had imagined the whole thing. I held up the papers, shaking them slightly. "This. Did you think I would not notice? You went behind my back and changed the prenup. You added clauses to give yourself half my company, my pension, access to my investments. What is this, Raquel?" Her response? A shrug. A shrug. She barely even glanced at the document. "You are being dramatic," she said with that tone people use when they are annoyed, not guilty. "It is just extra protection for me. I thought you would be okay with that." Okay with that? I could feel my voice rising, but I held myself back. "Raquel, that is not what we agreed to. We talked about this. We had an understanding." She sighed, like I was the one making things difficult. "You have everything in your name," she said, still avoiding eye contact. "I deserve something too. Do you know how much I have sacrificed for you?" Sacrificed? That word hit me like a punch. "What exactly have you sacrificed?" I asked. Her eyes narrowed, and she threw her hands in the air. "I quit my job to support you, to travel with you to all those meetings, to be there for you when you needed me. I put my life on hold for this relationship." "Your job?" I shot back. "You quit a part-time job in retail because you said you hated it. That was your choice. Do not act like you gave up a career for me. And let us be honest, Raquel, you were not exactly suffering on those trips. 5-star hotels, fine dining, shopping. That was all me. I was paying for everything." Her face hardened. "So that is it? You were just going to throw it in my face that you have all the money? I thought you were different. I thought you cared about." I could feel my patience slipping. "This is not about money, Raquel. This is about trust. You went behind my back. You manipulated the one thing we were supposed to agree on. How am I supposed to marry someone I cannot trust?" She crossed her arms and tilted her head like she was the one being wrong. "Maybe you are the one being manipulative, using money to control me. I should not have to beg for security if things go wrong. If you really loved me, you would understand." That was it for me. I shook my head and said, "If you loved me, you would not have done this. You would have talked to me instead of scheming behind my back." We stood there in silence for a while, the tension between us unbearable. Then her expression shifted, like she had made up her mind. "Fine," she said coldly. "If you want to end the engagement, go ahead. But I am keeping the ring, and I am staying in the apartment until I am ready to leave. You owe me that." I could not believe her audacity. "You will not keep anything, Raquel. That ring was a promise, and you broke it. And the apartment? I paid for it. You are moving out," her face twisted in anger. "You are unbelievable. After everything I have done for you, this is how you treat me. Like I am nothing." "No, Raquel," I said, my voice steady now. "You treated me like I was nothing the moment you decided to betray my trust. That was the moment I knew it was over. After that fight, I knew there was no coming back. The engagement was officially over in my mind, but actually untangling our lives turned out to be a lot messier than I anticipated. Raquel, of course, did not make it easy. The first thing I did was cancel the credit card I had given her for emergencies. It had been sitting in my wallet for weeks, bothering. I checked the statement and nearly choked when I saw the charges. Thousands of dollars spent on designer clothes, skincare products, even a weekend getaway to some boutique hotel. None of it was an emergency. I called her right away. "Raquel," I said, trying to stay calm, "I know what you have been doing. You maxed out the emergency card on luxury shopping. What were you thinking? She laughed, and I will never forget how bitter and smug it sounded. Oh, so now I cannot even use the card anymore. After everything I've done for you, I think I deserve a little something in return. Deserve? I repeated, my voice tightening. You have no right to any of this, Raquel. That card was for emergencies, not a personal shopping spree. Well, maybe you should have been clearer about what emergency meant. She snapped, as if I were the one being unreasonable. I could not believe it. What I am going to do, I told her firmly, is cancel the card immediately. And while we are at it, I am removing you from every shared account. You will not have access to a single cent of my money anymore. Her response, she laughed again, even louder this time. What are you going to do next? Kick me out of the apartment? Yes, I said without hesitation. You have 1 week to pack your things and leave. I have been more than generous, Raquel. But this ends now. She refused, of course. She claimed she needed more time to find a place and made every excuse in the book to drag it out. In the meantime, she called friends and family, telling anyone who would listen that I was evicting her out of spite. My phone started blowing up. My mom, my sister, even a few close friends. All of them wanted to know why I was being so heartless. Raquel had spun the story to make herself look like the victim. She told them I had blindsided her, that I was abandoning her with no warning. At first, I tried explaining my side, but it felt pointless. People who did not know the full story just could not understand. So I stopped responding and focused on getting her out. The breaking point came when she called me late one night. Her voice was sweet, too sweet. Ethan, she said, using the tone she always used when she wanted something. We can work this out. Let us not throw everything away over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I asked, incredulous. Raquel, you betrayed me. You lied to my family. You maxed out a credit card. It was a free-for-all. There is nothing left to work out. She sighed, and for a moment I thought she might finally give in. But then her voice hardened again. Fine. But do not think I will leave quietly. You will regret this. It took a few more days, but eventually, she was gone. I got the keys back to the apartment, canceled the last of our shared accounts, and retrieved the engagement ring. It was not easy, but I did it. And for the first time in weeks, I started to feel like I could breathe again. Even after she moved out, Raquel was not done. I should have seen it coming. But somehow I still held on to this shred of hope that she would just let it go. Instead, she escalated things in a way that I could not have imagined. The first wave of chaos came from my family. My phone started buzzing nonstop. My sister, my mom, even my brother. They all wanted answers. Raquel had called them one by one, playing the victim. According to her, I had blindsided her, thrown her out onto the streets, and refused to support her after everything she had done for me. I will never forget the conversation with my mom. She called me one evening, her voice shaking with anger. Ethan, how could you do this to her? She was so good to you. She only wanted a little security, and you treated her like she was some stranger. Hearing that from my own mother stung. I took a deep breath and said, Mom, do you even know what she did? She went behind my back and tried to change the prenuptial agreement. She wanted half my company, my investments, my pension, everything. And she did not ask. She just did it. There was silence on the other end. Finally, my mom said, That is not what she told me. Of course it was not. Raquel had spun her version of the story so well that even my own family was buying it. I had to spend hours explaining the full situation to them. At first, they were skeptical, especially my sister, who always had a soft spot for Raquel. But once I laid out the facts, they started to see the bigger picture. It was exhausting, but at least they came around eventually. Raquel, however, did not stop there. She went on a spending spree before I could cancel every single account she had access to. I thought I had covered my bases, but I missed one small detail. an auto-renewing card tied to an online shopping account. By the time I caught it, she had drained even more money on luxury items and even booked herself another trip. I called her immediately. "Raquel, I know what you're doing. This stops now. I will take legal action if I have to." She laughed, a bitter, sarcastic laugh. "What are you going to do? Sue me for spending a fraction of what you have? You owe me this, Ethan. After all the time I wasted on you, I deserve at least that much." That word again. Deserve. I was so tired of hearing it. I canceled the account on the spot, and from that moment on, I made sure there was no way she could touch anything else. But the worst part was the public drama. Raquel started posting on social media, calling me a manipulator, claiming I had forced her to sign an unfair prenuptial agreement and then left her with nothing. She painted me as the villain, the heartless fiancé who tossed her aside after years of sacrifices. Mutual friends started reaching out, some curious, some judgmental. "What is going on with you and Raquel?" they would ask. At first, I tried defending myself, explaining what really happened, but after a while, I stopped. It was not worth it. Anyone who truly knew me understood that her version of events was far from the truth. By the time the dust settled, I was emotionally drained. She had tried every angle, manipulating my family, dragging my name through the mud, and squeezing every last bit of money she could. But despite all of that, I held my ground. I refused to let her guilt or shame me into giving her more than she deserved. It was not easy, but I was finally free of her, and that for me was worth every bit of the fallout. After the storm Raquel caused, I expected to feel hollow, maybe even regretful. But honestly, what I felt more than anything was relief. For the first time in months, maybe longer, I could breathe without feeling like something was lurking just out of sight, ready to blow up in my face. The first few weeks were about picking up the pieces. I focused on work, throwing myself into projects I had neglected during all the drama. It was almost therapeutic. Every time I closed a deal or hit a milestone, I reminded myself that this was what I had fought to protect: my company, my work ethic, my integrity. None of it would have survived if I had let Raquel's manipulations win. That does not mean it was easy. There were moments when the weight of it all hit me out of nowhere. One day I walked into the apartment and the silence was deafening. No more Raquel calling my name from the other room. No more laughter or arguments filling the space. It felt empty, but not in a way that made me miss her. It was more like stepping into a room after a fire. The damage was clear, but at least the flames were gone. What really stood out, though, were the conversations I started having with people around me. Friends who had stayed quiet during the engagement began opening up. One by one, they admitted they had their doubts about Raquel, but had not wanted to interfere. She always seemed demanding. One of my closest friends said, "But I figured it was none of my business." Even some of my family, like my sister who had initially defended Raquel, began to see what I had been dealing with. I did not want to believe it, she told me one evening, but looking back, the signs were there. I just did not think she would go that far. Hearing that was bittersweet. On one hand, I felt validated. On the other, I realized how blind I had been to the red flags. Small demands that turned into bigger ones. Little comments about my finances disguised as jokes, the way she always seemed to push boundaries, testing how far my generosity would go. That was the hardest pill to swallow. Acknowledging that I had ignored those signs because I wanted to believe the best in her. I wanted the relationship to work so badly that I overlooked what was right in front of me. But if there was one thing I took away from all of this, it was the importance of boundary. I realized that real love is about trust and partnership, not control or entitlement. It is about being with someone who values what you bring to the table, not someone who sees it as theirs to take. A few months later, I started dating again. This time, I was more cautious. I made a point to look for qualities I had overlooked before: independence, honesty, and respect for boundaries. And as I got to know new people, I found myself being more upfront, about my expectation. No more skirting around important conversations. Raquel taught me a lot, but not in the way I thought she would when we first got engaged. She taught me how to recognize manipulation, how to stand firm in my values, and most importantly, how to walk away when someone crosses the line. In the end, I came out stronger. The experience with Raquel was painful, no doubt about it, but it did not break me. It reminded me of who I am and what I am capable of. And for that, I am grateful. I am still standing, still building, and still moving forward.